Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to this afternoon session. And thank you for joining us. My name is Nikos Zampoukas, and I am a researcher at the Institute of Marine Biology, Biotechnology, and Aquaculture of the Hellenic Center for Marine Research, and I will be moderating this session. In the next 2 hours, we will focus on blue economy, the European strategy to support sustainable growth in the marine and maritime sectors. I suppose we all accept that knowledge, research, and innovation are key elements for maximizing the advantages of the extended European marine environment, and that there are several activities in this context. It is a great pleasure to have today with us some of the key persons to present us their experience on these topics, and we shall have 7 presentations in total. As we shall not have an active participation with live questions, I would like to ask you to post your questions and comments to our speakers through the Zoom chat that you may find all at the bottom of your screen. Just a reminder note for everyone to turn off the microphone. Please also note that all sessions are recorded and the videos will become available to watch on demand after the conference. In case you do not want to appear in the videos, you may just turn off your camera. Information about the access will be available on our website. Without any further delay, let me introduce our keynote speaker, Professor Bernard Kloareg, which is Science Coordinator of the European Marine Biological Resources France, and particularly in Station Biologique de Roscoff. Bernard was trained as an engineer in agronomy. His research interests are biochemistry, genomics, and biotechnology, and he coordinated the European Marine Biological Resource Infrastructure Cluster, the EMBRC, a European Horizon 2020 project. Bernard, the floor is yours.
Hello to everyone. Thanks to Antonis and to the organizers for the invitation. The title of my conference is Blue Valley, an emerging science park in marine biotechnology. I prepared it together with Pierre Collard, who has been helping me with the Blue Valley project when I was the director of the Station Biologique. This is the outline of the presentation. We will first ask ourselves why Pierre and I came with the idea of founding a science park close to our marine stations. The Station Biologique de Roscoff is located next to a megatidal sea. This is obvious here at low tide. The maximal tide amplitude reaches about 10 meters. This is clearly not the Aegean Sea, with completely different physical ecosystem compared to CMBR, for example. But allow me to say that we do share a lot of values and practice with CMBR. Our main experimental models are phytoplankton, seaweeds, and invertebrates such as the sea urchin Sphaerechinus granularis and the lugworm Arenicola marina. Here is a map of our implementation in the city of Roscoff. The first campus of SBR was created in 1872 next to the church, where there was enough space to develop the station for, well, almost 130 years. In 2006, I convinced the CNRS to buy a hotel, the Gulfstream, to expand our capacity for housing and catering. And in 2016, Sorbonne University made a deal with the city mayor to lease this building for 50 years and expand our teaching capacities and incubate companies in biotech. This slide summarizes the basic science competencies at SBR and their potential application sector, competencies application sector. The station offers a comprehensive setup up-to-date skills in marine biology and ecology. Applications cover the whole of marine bioeconomy, from cell factories to environmental monitoring. The ecosystems near the SBR are engineered by kelp forests. They are a biodiversity hotspot. They also sustain abundant bioresources for blue growth, seaweeds in particular, as shown here. So to summarize this part of my talk, why did we propose to install Blue Valley in Roscoff? First, Brittany is the first region in France for blue biotech, and blue biotech is definitely part of this smart specialization strategy. It also hosts the largest concentration of marine science research in France. And I think it is fair to say that the Station Biologique de Roscoff is a major research and training hub in France, and as we see next, also in Europe. Let's then have a quick glance at EMBRC-France, the node of EMBRC for France. Nicolas Spade already introduced EMBRC this morning. Let's focus a bit on the situation in France. EMBRC unites the three marine stations of Banyuls, Roscoff, and Villefranche, which are the three largest marine stations in France, each totaling a staff of about 200 to 250. EMBRC-France has been formerly a national infrastructure in biology and health since 2011. And here its headquarters are located next door to those of EMBRC. So what is the mission of EMBRC-France? It is to provide marine organisms, marine bioresources for public and private research. In practice, this consists of giving access to marine organisms and their ecosystems, give access to technical and analytical platforms, develop key enabling technologies, train the staff and users of the infrastructure, and last but not least, support innovation. The agenda of EMBRC-France for the next 5 years is to build augmented observatories. By this, we mean the integration of environmental genomics, automated imaging technologies, and automated physicochemical sensors. This will serve well our users' community in ecology and oceanography. We, of course, want to continue to develop marine models, including by implementing techniques such as ex situ cultivation, and by developing genomic resources such as reference genomes and tools for functional genomics. So let's move now to the last part of my talk. As you know by now, Blue Valley is an innovation system specific for Brittany, an innovation ecosystem specific for Brittany. Yes, I'd like to convince you that it can be benchmarked with others, those of the EMBRC in particular. As Nicolas told you this morning, the common agenda of EMBRC laboratories is to deepen fundamental knowledge on marine organisms and ecosystems, promote the sustainable development of marine biological resources for both fundamental and strategic research, and promote the blue economy of maritime regions. How are we organizing ourselves to enforce this later statement? One can simply choose to enforce the duty of regular EMBRC lab, that is signing the signature of service level agreements to provide normalized access to the technical platforms. So this already makes a strong impact, at least regionally. One can also choose to host local companies or to host locally companies in a dedicated space with precise incubation rules, like it is the case for the Laboratoire Arago in Banyuls. Or else, as we have decided to do in Roscoff, one can create a physically and legally independent entity with the aim of having an even bigger impact at the EU level. So this aerial view shows the core of Blue Valley. This part of Roscoff is referred to as the Laber, which literally means Blue Valley in the Breton language. So you see here the Station Biologique, our restaurant, the Gulf Stream, the Manor campus, and come back to that later, and a research hotel, which is hosting two companies. So this setting provides access to a variety of services, such as expertise and academic collaboration over a large spectrum of marine biology and ecology topics, state-of-the-art technological platforms such as biological resource centers, metabolomics, imaging, genomics, bioinformatics, highly qualified human resources, either students, researchers, engineers, or project managers, and high level of initial and long-life training programs. And it also gives access to the international network of marine biology and biotech institutions of the SBR, of the station. As Blue Valley develops, we expect to achieve a cluster effect. I mean collaborations between company, mutualizations, and so that we eventually will give a collective competitive advantage to the companies in Blue Valley. Sorbonne University, who owned the brand name Blue Valley, transferred the whole concept of Blue Valley, including its brand name, to the Pays de Morlaix, which is a local political body which represents a population of 120,000 people. Pays de Morlaix is responsible, among other duties, for territorial development. The operational objectives envisioned for Blue Valley are to promote interactions between the various stakeholders, to develop the infrastructures and the services of the park, to attract knowledge-based companies, to seek funding at local, regional, national, and European levels, and to accelerate territorial development in the blue bioeconomy sector. I have been coordinating an EU program known EMBRC, which stands for European Marine Biological Research Infrastructure Cluster. This cluster united 6 European infrastructures, including EMBRC, MIRI, and Aquaculture for the provision of marine organisms, and EU OpenScreen and Elixir for chemical biology and bioinformatics, respectively. We developed common pipelines leading to the discovery of natural products and for aquaculture. In EMBRC, we studied the innovation ecosystem of several maritime regions. as I hinted already, in Brittany, seaweed biomass is sources of raw material for a number of companies with a total of about 3,000 jobs. So this mine highlights the R&D workflows in relation to the main marine bioresources of various maritime regions. So they are based on macroalgae, as I said already for Brittany, but also fish and shellfish in Norway, Scotland, Galicia, and Crete, and eventually microalgae, for example, in in Naples and in Banyuls and Villefranche. So these innovation ecosystems share common interests. EMBRC pleaded for an alliance of the innovation ecosystem in blue biotech of the various maritime regions using EMBRC as a general scaffold as follows. As you know well already, EMBRC in Roscoff is developing Blue Valley. The policy of EMBRC-France as a whole is to federate the innovation ecosystems of Banyuls and Villefranche and Roscoff, hence giving them a national dimension. And with the support of EMBRC ERIC, we can build a meta system covering the maritime regions of Europe. While this view will probably seem totally unrealistic to you, however, it may be not so naive after all. I'll give you an example right now. One of my colleagues, Philippe Potin, was asked by the Lloyd Registers Foundation to chair a worldwide coalition to promote seaweed cultivation. The aim of Safe Seaweed Coalition is to ensure that seaweed cultivation is scaled up safely and efficiently to obtain sustainable sources of food and feed, as well as other major secondary benefits, such as carbon sequestration. And the Lloyd Register Foundation gave SSC £2 million as seed money to leverage for more funds in Europe and globally. I'm sure you are all familiar with the technology readiness level ladder put forward by the commissions to describe the various steps to climb from basic science to actual system proven in the industry. Our operators, Sorbonne University and CNRS, see the coverage of TRL 1 to 4 as their own duty. But to fully achieve economic development, climbing the TRL ladder all the way up must then be taken over by territorial governments and private companies. And speaking of private companies, we actually have been thinking of creating our own companies in blue biotechs. So Pierre and I are giving this idea serious thoughts. In conclusion, these are the messages I wanted to convey to you today. We all have a common interest, establish a pan-European innovation ecosystem to foster the blue bioeconomy. A prerequisite to this is to bypass the natural tendency of research institutions, regions whether maritime or not, and nations to compete instead of making alliances. To achieve this objective, I propose to establish synergies between national funds, research and innovation funds, structural funds, and investment funds. And I believe that the EMBRC is well geared to federate the various stakeholders which are willing to reach this goal. Thank you very much for your attention.
Thank you very much, Professor Kloareg, for this very nice and interesting presentation. All these ideas are far from being naive, and in my opinion, is the way to go further and to bring together the research results with the innovation. There are a couple of questions for you. The first one is from Management Analytics, who's asking, if you were to start a biological station now, what are the things that you would most worried about?
Well, first of all, I'd like to say that the marine station in Roscoff was created 150 years ago. So it's not that much my worry right now. But if I were to create a marine station, and it makes sense actually because the interest for marine sciences and for marine biology and ecology in particular is more and more pregnant because of blue growth and whatever. Well, precisely given the landscape which we are in now, I would be afraid maybe of having too much competition with the danger that, with the risk that I mean, nobody can thrive. So what I mean to say is that the money, the funds should be concentrated to go in a few places only, so that you can reach the critical mass in biology, ecology, and biological oceanography, for example, because that's very important that's important for each of those domains, but it is also very important that you share between ecology, oceanography, and biology. So, I mean, the cross-fertilization is very important. So the worry would be that one, so that we waste too much effort by streaming too thin the funding.
This is really a big problem for everybody, and that's why I would like to ask you, it's very important that the station that you have created and the initiative that you took there is in very close relation to the private sector, or at least this is that I understand that you want to have a close relation to the private sector. Are there any special terms for a company to join the park? And is there any way for existing companies to collaborate, given especially the interest that the regional interest that you have in your area?
Well, the main interest to companies, well, there are two interests. By the way, the park is no longer the marine stations in itself. I mean, it's larger than that. I mean, we handed it to a political body, that is duty to do that. So that's perfect. Now, there are two aspects. The advantages of the companies of joining the park or of collaborating with us is precisely they would have access to a lot of services, which I detailed in my presentation. But the specific aspect of a company to physically put forces in the park is what I call the cluster effect, because that would create collaboration between the companies. Collaborations between the companies, collaboration with the station. But I would say what is more important even is to collaborate between the companies. I mean, having a system effect, as we say in French. And again, it may sound naive, but in reality, it's not. In reality, if you are in different or in complementary sectors, you do have a lot of interest in collaborating.
Okay, thank you. There's one more question for you. Do you already have signs that Blue Valley has an impact to the attention and expansion of marine biotechnology? It's from Yorgos Kotoulas, and he thinks that we miss good examples. So maybe you have something to say us.
That I understand the question. Please, can you reformulate the question or say it again?
I can bring it up.
Okay, thank you, Georgios.
Thank you, Bernard. I mean, a few years ago, Blue Valley seemed like a dream. I have visited it and have already seen companies installed. We don't have many examples from Europe. So when we want to demonstrate the application of marine research in the private sectors, we need good examples. So Blue Valley is one. It has already an impact in advertising what marine biotechnology can bring, although it's a very new endeavor, at least at the regional level or at the national level?
Well, actually, we've been speaking of Blue Valley for maybe too much time because, I would say that things have been slow to develop. So a big change was precisely the undertaking of the paid Morlaix, which will make it a bit more real, or a bit more practical. Of course, this period of pandemic is not easy to, but that's a parenthesis which won't last very long, I hope. Well, we definitely want to show, to show that this is a leading endeavor, as you said, undertaking. It's an example, but it's a specific example because, as I said, our innovation ecosystems are based on the physical ecosystems per se, so they are based on seaweeds, I would say. But I'm still very. I mean, we can benchmark this ecosystem with all of the others in Europe and especially in EMBRC. Now, there has a lot of other examples of ecosystems in other innovation ecosystem in other fields, such as agronomy and whatever. But we can learn from them, and we can learn from ourselves, actually, which is even, I would say, probably more efficient.
Thank you very much, Bernard. And I think that it is now to go further. You point us a very critical issue, which is the finance and the politics below this. So now I'm going to introduce the next speaker, which is Dr. Eleni Hatziyanni, who is policy officer at the European Commission and in the direction of Maritime Affairs and Fisheries. Eleni has been Director of Environment and Spatial Planning at the region of Crete and coordinator of several European projects. He's gonna speak to us on the blue economy at the Eastern Mediterranean, the recent developments and the future opportunities. Eleni, you're having a live presentation, and the floor is yours.
Thank you very much, Nikos. Thank you for the invitation. I'm very glad to be here with you, even in this way of a virtual conference. So let me please share my slides with you. So can you follow my slides?
We are about to start. Yeah, we are ready. Okay. Let's go.
Is it okay? Okay. So, as mentioned by Nikos, we're going to focus on policy perspective now and according to the current developments and future opportunities also in the Mediterranean basin. But first of all, I would like to start with a few figures on the Mediterranean regarding the blue economy dimension. And these numbers, of course, refer to the Blue Economy 2020 report from the European Commission, which gathers all the information from previous years and definitely before the COVID pandemic. So blue economy potential in terms of the turnover, the gross added value, it's of a great, let's say, percentage and a very high level in terms of number for the total European seas. And just give a few numbers here about 218 billion in terms of gross value added, and around 5 million in terms of employment. And if we have a closer look at the Mediterranean, we can see definitely this change when going from the west to the eastern part. But again, high numbers, which most of all reflect to the high numbers of coastal and maritime tourism in both areas, but also for other either traditional sectors of the blue economy or in the last years of emergent sectors of the blue economy, which derive to new activities in terms of what countries are doing for developing those sectors and take the maximum output of their projects in the Mediterranean Sea. We can see also differences among the different areas in the European seas, but definitely the main message here is the huge potential of the blue economy in different sectors around the European seas, and of course in the Mediterranean, as we are focusing today in our discussion. Apart from the figures, what is important also to say, it's not only the potential of the blue economy, but also how to deal with the blue economy sectors, which are a great percentage of the total economy around the European seas, but with a new perspective, which is the perspective of sustainability, as it was very clearly mentioned from the very beginning of the conference today from the first presentation. The last year, and in particular on December 2019, the European Commission, and in particular the President von der Leyen, put the European Green Deal into their concrete priorities. So in terms of the European Green Deal, we need to go for climate neutrality, for a transformation of the all economic sectors towards a sustainability perspective. And of course, the blue economy sectors cannot be an exception on that. So we are trying now by trying to stress our efforts on how to align with the European Green Deal axis on going further to the sustainability on blue economy sectors by doing things differently and by doing also new things compared to the traditional activities we focused before. For example, we focus our efforts on climate neutrality, on clean energy, on zero pollution, on sustainable food production, on sustainable mobility, on blue circular economy, on preservation of nature through the natural-based solutions, and a few examples of new highlighted emergent activities are, for example, the marine renewable energies, the green shipping, the sustainable fishing, the sustainable aquaculture, the new blue biotechnologies and the new blue value chains, the sustainable tourism, the eco-friendly tourism, and apart from that, there is also another perspective of the digital transformation, which also a demand of a European recovery plan and the new guidelines regarding how the member states, the countries, but also the regions can go further to this direction. So this new approach of sustainability in the blue economy sector is exactly the main approach of the new initiative of the European Commission and in particular of DG Mare, which is actually finalized. This is being finalized these days. So the next day is going to be published, which is the new communication, the new approach for a sustainable blue economy. And I think it's clear why, as explained earlier, because we need to transform the blue economy sectors according to the axis for sustainability of the European Green Deal, and because there is no green without blue, as the blue economy sectors cannot be an exception of that. Because that will also contribute to the recovery of the sectors affected by COVID crisis and can result to a more resilient blue economy. And because also such a major shift can call for joint efforts of the countries, for example, in particular in the Mediterranean, across these different and several sectors of blue economy. So how we can do that? I will give you examples of main sectors and main directions for transforming into the blue value chains, which definitely are the decarbonization by focusing on offshore renewable energy, on zero emission vessels, for example, on smart ports and green ports. Secondly, on the biodiversity and coastal resilience by focusing on how to further protect, how to restore the coastal and marine ecosystems, how to make new, more smart investments by focusing on natural-based solutions, not only on the land, but also on the coastal environment, and how also to focus on new forms of tourism, which can lead to sustainable and more resilient tourism. Third, more sustainable food systems by trying to meet as much as possible the common fishery policy sustainability standards. And I can share with you regarding this that European Commission and DG Mare has finished its work on new guidelines for sustainable aquaculture. So this is going to be published the next days. So another point of our efforts would be how to implement these strategic aquaculture guidelines and how also to invest on new forms of aquaculture like the macro and the micro algae. And fourth, on blue circular economy, by stressing our efforts on how to address the microplastics, how to invest on circular design of fishing gears, how to develop new and more advanced recycling facilities. Of course, in order to do that, we need to, let's say, motivate some enablers which are already exist, like, for example, areas of and initiatives of research and innovation, of governance in the Mediterranean and in Europe in general, of different European funds, of tools and ways and methodologies in order to upgrade and to upscale the blue skills and programs dealing with blue careers or other ways to upgrade the experience and the professional careers in the blue economy sectors, but definitely how to implement the marine spatial planning, which is the overarching approach in terms of the ecosystemic approach, which very relevant and very close related to this new approach of sustainability in the blue economy sectors we are discussing now with the new initiative. For that direction, a great potential comes from the smart specialization strategies and for the implementation of mature ideas of new projects which can go further to more smart and innovative approach. This also has been mentioned. I think it was addressed as a question in the first or second presentation, dealing on how the national and the regional authorities can be engaged in this new perspective of sustainability and innovative. And this is the case, the implementation of the smart specialization strategies, because it brings together the four parts of the quadruple helix, which include both the research sector and the public sector. So there is a great place there and a large room of cooperation of public and private and research sectors together with the society in order to achieve innovative results and new businesses and exact products coming from the research and the innovation. So smart specialization strategies, and it's the correct time and the momentum now, because we're going in a few weeks in a few months to have the updated smart specializations of the regions. So it will be a great opportunity to support this transition to sustainable blue economy, to upscale the experience gained from the previous years, and to promote new opportunities, new projects, new activities, and new interregional innovation partnerships in the next programming period. In the Mediterranean basin, there is already a key element of cooperation in terms of different areas and different activities. For example, the energy production as a part of the activities and the efforts for the response to climate change, regarding the green ports, the green marinas, and the green shipbuilding, regarding the sustainable coastal and maritime tourism, regarding the sustainable fisheries and aquaculture, and generally the sustainable use and management of the marine resources, and of course, regarding addressing the plastic marine litter. And a very good example for that, which is also very relevant for our discussion, because HCMR is involved on that from the very beginning, is the BlueMed pilot action on the healthy plastic-free Mediterranean Sea. As a pilot action comes from the BlueMed strategic and research and innovation agenda, which focused on how to monitor the plastic litter in the Mediterranean, how to understand how this interfere with ecosystems and the food chains, how to raise the awareness of the citizens in different countries, and this has been done in a very extended with a very good result through the BlueMed national hubs in the different countries. We have the opportunity later to learn and to discuss more on BlueMed by my colleague from DGRDD, which is the European Commission service which is leading this initiative. In the Mediterranean Sea, it's time now to go from what we used to refer to the last years as blue growth, to go now to sustainable blue economy, which means by changing the model of the blue economy and make sure that every aspect of the recovery shifts with a focus from the exploitation to sustainability according to specific guidelines and ways of action as described before. Of course, a way to do that in cooperation with the Mediterranean is to take the full advantages of the sea basin and the macro-regional perspective, for which DG Mare and especially our unit is focusing and working in the different areas around Europe. And this by complementing also to other recent framework initiatives of the Commission, which are the Farm to Fork strategy, very relevant to the sustainable food from the sea for fishers and aquaculture, with a biodiversity strategy, with a strategy for plastics in a circular economy and the forthcoming zero pollution strategy, and the offshore energy strategy, which has been published last November. Definitely, and I will explain you later in another slide, the European Maritime, Fisheries and Aquaculture Fund will play a key role, coupled with other EU funds like the Horizon Europe, and of course the national recovery plans and the new operational programs for the next programming period, which is already running, by the way, will be also another opportunity. This also is related again with the national and the regional authorities in different countries in terms of the policies they would like to further implement, which will go into new projects. Speaking of the sea basin perspective, let me please recall and highlight that, because it's the main way of putting all together, all the countries together in terms of their common needs, their common challenges, and their joint projects they can implement in a specific geographical area. And I will give an example of the West Med, which is an example of a sea basin perspective in the Mediterranean, but also the example of the European strategy of Adriatic-Ionian region, which is an example of cooperation of countries in a specific closer geographical area, but under this macro-regional perspective, which ensures a cooperation of the countries towards challenges they can share and problems they can solve together. And of course, there are several communications, several documents, several strategies which can guide towards that direction of cooperation, like the very recent ministerial declaration on sustainable blue economy in the framework of a Union for Mediterranean, and also other declarations dealing with the environment, the climate change. Also, the renewed partnership of the Southern Neighborhood. This is also something to take into consideration, because in the Mediterranean, there are not only the European countries, but also the Southern countries. So when speaking by sustainable blue economy in the Mediterranean, we also need to take on board this dimension of cooperation of Southern countries as well. Definitely the Western Balkans investment plan, this is of very relevance with countries close to the Adriatic region, the Adriatic Sea. And of course, several strategies coming from the European Commission on communication, the implementation of the MSP and the Blue Med initiative. I will close my presentation by mentioning that all those towards this new perspective of sustainability can be achieved not only by the efforts of the countries and by the cooperation, but also through several funds, tools, programs that will be in front of us the next months. So let me highlight, first of all, the new European Maritime, Fisheries and Aquaculture Fund, which is of responsibility of DG Mare, which of course, and mentioned before, it will be aligned to the priorities and the axis of the European Green Deal, with this focus on how to make the Europe carbon neutral by 2050, and focusing on recovery, the resilience, by making a specific attention on the climate neutrality, the circular economy, the zero pollution, the farm to fork strategy, the biodiversity, and the digital transformation. And in all those, and under the general scope of the MFAF on the sustainable blue economy, coupled with a common fishery policy, the integrated maritime policy, and of course the ocean governance, specific areas either in the offshore renewable energy or in the ocean health, on the fisheries and aquaculture, or the bioeconomy and the algae, or in sustainable fisheries, but also on skills and blue careers and professional, will be of great importance, that will give room and areas of cooperation, definitely in the Mediterranean Sea. So thank you very much. I'm at your disposal for questions, and it will be also a possibility later to exchange some views and to pay more, let's say, attention and put some more details in some areas you would like on. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Eleni, for this nice presentation, particularly for the part that involved the Mediterranean region. Given the time limitation, we have already passed the time. There are some questions on the chat, and I'm inviting everybody to ask further questions to Eleni on the chat, and she may reply there. I'm going directly to our next presenter, Professor Fifi Kouduri from the Athens University of Economic and Business. She's a worldwide known environmental economic professor, leader in sustainable development. She's recognized as a pioneer in innovative, human-centric interdisciplinary systems and interaction between nature, society, and economy. He's going to present a sustainable transition towards blue growth. Fifi, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much, Nico. Thank you for having me in this prestigious conference. Do you want me to handle my presentation myself? I think it will be more efficient.
As you wish.
Yes. Okay. So allow me to share my screen. If the organizers can allow me to share my screen. Thank you very much. So today I will be
Maybe just one comment. When you reach the time, I'm going to open my screen and raise my hand so that
Lovely.
I have 1 minute. Thanks
Lovely.
a lot.
That would be very handy. I'm sure we will need that. So today I'm going to be talking about sustainability transition for blue economy, and it is always such a big pleasure speaking after Eleni, a person who has worked so intensively on the research, but also the research policy interface, and it is really a jewel to have you at DG Mare. Today I will try to bring in the connection between the SDGs, the European Green Deal, and the pandemic recovery plans. So I think it's important to remember the framework, the 2015 endorsement of Agenda 2030 and the 17 SDGs, the 169 targets, the climate agreement in Paris with 197 countries signing it and agreeing to limit temperature well below 2 degrees Celsius in terms of increased average temperature compared to pre-industrial levels. Then in 2018, we have IPCC reporting that we need to restrict the increase in temperature at 1.5 degrees Celsius, and 2019, we, the United Nations Sustainable Development Solutions Network, I am honored to chair the European hub with more than 400 member institutions, but also the Greek hub. We announced the 6 pathways for the operationalization of the SDGs. So we have 17 SDGs, but all of them are interconnected. No SDG is fully implemented without all the others being implemented, and the way to operationalize them is to engage them in transformation pathways that are relevant to the structure of governments. And these pathways are education transformation, health, energy decarbonization, sustainable food, land, water, and oceans. And this is most relevant for blue growth, sustainable cities and communities, and the digital revolution to sustainable development. Within this framework, the European Green Deal, with the 1 trillion budget, half of it to be leveraged from public-private partnerships and the other half from the European MFF, is of course focusing on climate neutrality, protection from pollution, clean tech leadership of European companies, and inclusiveness, leaving no one behind. And of course, the implementation of the European Green Deal should be aligned with the European semester process recommendations. And the other thing that should be aligned by with the European semester process recommendations are, of course, the recovery resilient funds. So in 2020, we had the pandemic. Different countries around the world and the European Commission as a whole came together with the Next Generation EU, an additional 750 billion to the MFF, and 672.5 billion are earmarked for the Recovery and Resilience Facility. The good news is that the European Green Deal is still the growth strategy of Europe. The money that will be invested under the Recovery and Resilience Facility need to be 37% climate aligned, need to respect the do no significant harm principle, and need to be 20% digital aligned. So our future is green and digital. Our growth is based on the 9 policies of the European Green Deal and our flagship areas of investment, which are the areas under which all the recovery and resilient plans of the 27 countries are aligned, are power up, renovate, recharge and refuel, connect, modernize, scale up, reskill and upskill. So basically, what we need to understand is that we have this policy framework together with the 21st of April announcement of the final, let's say, agreement on the climate law and the package of measures of the EU taxonomy. And we need to understand that all these need to come together in a common and aligned and coherent policy framework in order to be able to implement the European Green Deal. And if we streamline our attention to blue growth, we of course have the Marine Strategy Framework Directive, we have the European Spatial Platform, a Marine Spatial Platform. We also know that the European blue economy is indispensable to achieving the European Green Deal ambitions. Many solutions with regards to renewable energy, circular economy, nature-based solutions, and adaptation investments will come from blue economy. And we also know that the blue sectors will have to reduce their own environmental footprint. In May, we expect that the existing policies and those that are being created will come together in a new approach for sustainable blue economy. As UNSDSN, which is a global network that tries to promote integrated approaches to implementing the sustainable development in the Paris Agreement through education, research, policy analysis, and global cooperation. And it is really the biggest global network of research institutions that tries to communicate sustainable solutions to the other stakeholders that need to implement them. That is the politicians, the policymakers, the businesses, the financial institutions, the NGOs, the civil society. We try to do a lot on different aspects of sustainability, energy, climate, food systems, sustainable finance, measuring sustainability achievements with regards to the SDGs in each and every country of the world, providing the SDG Academy, which is an open access resource for different courses on sustainability, but we also try to do a lot on blue growth. And with regards to blue growth, we have this new initiative which is focused on trying to accelerate the implementation of SDG 14 together with all other SDGs in the 4 seas of Eurasia: Mediterranean, Black Sea, the Caspian Sea, and the Aral Sea. As you can see on this map, which is an extraction from our UNSDSN report on sustainable development, it measures the degree of achievement of SDG 14 in each and every country of the world. We are missing the countries with the gray color, but you can see that there is no green, almost no green on this map. So SDG 14 has not been achieved anywhere. Yellow means challenges remain with regards to the implementation of the SDG. Orange means significant challenges remain, and red means major challenges remain. SDG 14 is one of the underachieved SDGs, one of the most underachieved SDGs. And our SEAS initiative, Sustainable Euro-Asian SEAS, tries to create competitive intelligence cloud high performance computing platform for artificial intelligence based science, technology, and innovation policy making. It is based on this new Intelcom Horizon 2020 project, which will try to provide new and innovative AI services to public administrators and policymakers across Europe for a co-creation ecosystem that will allow data and intelligence-driven policy design. Our approach is from river basin to coast to sea. And this is an approach that we develop in another Horizon 2020 program, the coastal program. And of course, we know that with regards to European policy on the inland, we have Water Framework Directive managing our waters on the coast and on the seas and even oceans. We have the Marine Framework Directive and Marine Spatial Planning. And the whole of this framework is also relevant. It is also captured by SDG 14 that I mentioned before, but also SDG 6 on affordable energy, SDG 15 on sustainable land use, and SDG 13 on climate action, without excluding any other SDG. As I said before, the interconnection between the SDGs is significant. And what we try to do is to focus on research, education, data management, creating an observatory for maritime sector and marine-related economic and social activities, innovation, and policy reform. Our work on this Euro-Asian initiative is based on the extensive research experience that we have as the cluster of sustainability transition that I am directing, including the Athens University of Economics and Business, Athena Research and Information Center, and the Sustainable Development Solutions Network. We work on research and innovation projects, innovation acceleration, education and training awareness. And with regards to blue growth, we have a global initiative for sustainable shipping and ports that we announced and launched in COP25. We have an EIT, the European Institute of Innovation and Development Accelerator, which mentors and finances startups in the maritime sector that can support the transition to climate neutrality and climate resilience. And with regards to research projects, we have a big array of research projects. Each slide that you see refers to one of them, focusing on energy production from the sea, offshore, multi-use platforms using wave, wind, solar, and integrating these with marine transport management, fisheries, and aquaculture. We have projects on marine protected areas management, projects on the management of the coast, coastal spatial planning, and many projects that implement the systems innovation approach for engaging the stakeholders to co-design transformation pathways for the marine sector as a whole, transformation pathways towards sustainability. The second area that is related, like I said before, we have a from source to sea approach. So river basin management is instrumental in what we do. And this is the area on water, food, energy nexus, smart agriculture, and smart urban water systems, on which we've received recently a 10 million ERC grant. And finally, we have a lot of work that is also very relevant given the climate crisis, the economic crisis, and the pandemic crisis that we are currently simultaneously facing, focusing on climate change mitigation adaptation projects, green digital just recovery, circular economy, nature-based solutions, and finally, all that we do in terms of research results, we try to accelerate to the market. And this is our work with EIT Climate Kick. I coordinate the local hub that funds and accelerates and mentors startups that have to do with climate neutrality, and also a big new European accelerator for startups in the maritime sector that are relevant to climate neutrality and climate adaptation transition. So all this we want to bring together under SDSN Europe and align the European recovery with the green and digital job-based and fair transformation that is needed today. And every year, as the senior working group on the joint implementation of the SDGs and the European Green Deal, we publish a report which puts together the SDGs, the European Green Deal, the semester process, and the recovery plan, and develop pathways for each and every sector of the economy, for each and every country, that showcase how the sustainable recovery can be achieved. Thank you very much for your patience.
Thank you very much, Phoebe, for this nice and very interesting presentation. There is a huge number of projects that you and your group are working with. I'm afraid that we shall not have time now for live questions. I invite everybody to post questions on the chat, and I'm sure that Philip will take care of them. And I'm going directly to our next presenter. Is Dr. Nikos Zampoukas. He's a policy officer from the European Commission, now from DG Research and Innovation. Nikos is a biologist and holds a PhD in oceanography from the University of Athens. He's currently developing through instruments like the Horizon Program Research and Innovation Policy, underpinning the European Common Fishery Policy, Blue Growth Agenda, and European Green Deal. Nikos, the floor is yours.
Good afternoon. I'm going to give you a short overview on how the EU is supporting with research and innovation policy the Blue Growth Agenda. And more specifically, I'm going to talk about the current research and innovation framework program, Horizon Europe, that is starting now in 2021, and it will take us until 2027. And this is the budget of Horizon Europe, that is more than 95 billion euros, that will be invested over the course of the next 7 years. And this represents a substantial increase compared to the budget of the previous framework program, Horizon 2020, that was around 70 billion euros. So this increase is particularly important since it has been achieved despite the budget limitations in the European Union. Most of its budget will go to the so-called global challenges and European industrial competitiveness. This is about research and innovation with technological readiness levels of around 3 to 7, and this is mostly collaborative research. There is also funding for excellent science, that means mostly basic fundamental science about funding the vision of charismatic scientists or promising young scientists. And there will be funding also for innovation close to the market with high technological readiness level, particularly through the new European Innovation Council. And these are the global challenges that research and innovation will address. And they are clustered under 6 different clusters: on health, on culture, on civil security for society, on digitalization, industry and space, on climate, energy and mobility, and cluster 6 on food, bioeconomy, natural resources, agriculture and environment. And this is the cluster where my directorate and my unit mostly works, and this is the cluster where most of the marine research will be funded, and has a budget of around 9 billion euros to be invested in the next 7. A couple of months ago, the first strategic plan for Horizon Europe was published, and it gives an overview of the key strategic orientations for the program for the first 4 years. It talks about the different clusters, the impacts, the intervention areas. It talks about partnerships and missions. It talks about international collaboration, issues of integration of social science and humanities, gender issues, and others. And that was the fruit of an intense co-creation and co-design process. So DG Research and Innovation developed this strategic plan in close collaboration, not collaboration, co-creation with DG RTD, DG Mare, DG Environment, DG Agri, and other DGs, of course, with members of the European Parliament, of course, with member states, mainly through the program committee, the shadow program committee, and of course, with the general public and the stakeholders. We are lucky enough in this strategic plan to have an area of intervention dedicated to seas, ocean, and inland waters. And the objectives of this area of intervention is to protect, restore, and manage sustainably aquatic ecosystems, and to create jobs and growth, to sustainably unlock the potential of aquatic ecosystems to produce more food, safe food, bio-based ingredients, raw materials, and the potential of aquaculture in this frame is being particularly highlighted. Also, the importance of partnering across the EU and also outside the EU in EU sea basins and through the macro-regional strategies is highlighted, and also to partner with non-EU partners to contribute to the international ocean governance commitments. One of the novelties of the Horizon Europe is the mission approach. So there will not only be typical projects that publish results, that deliver deliverables, but there will be missions, portfolios of concrete actions with bold and measurable goal, not only measurable in terms of journal impact within a set time frame that will really make the difference for the citizens. And we are lucky enough that alongside the mission on climate, cancer, cities and soil, we have a dedicated mission on healthy seas, oceans, inland waters. And this mission is still a candidate in standard development, and there is a board and there is an assembly of experts that are developing the concept of how this mission might develop and proceed. And the latest publication is the mission starfish approach, where the experts see the mission on ocean, seas and water as a starfish with 5 branches. One branch is the knowledge and emotional gap that we have to fill to bring citizens closer to the aquatic ecosystem. Another branch is the elimination of the pollution. A third branch is the revamping of governance. A fourth branch is the regeneration of marine and freshwater ecosystem. And a fifth branch is the decarbonization of seas, oceans, and inland waters. The experts suggest that the mission will start with smaller pilot projects, lighthouses projects, and demonstration projects in certain areas that will show how this concept works and will create a network of area-based lighthouses. And if these lighthouses will be successful, they can be replicated all across Europe in all marine areas and also freshwater bodies. Except of the missions in Horizon Europe, there will be also partnerships. This is not a completely new thing, but is particularly important because the budget that Horizon is giving for marine research is very important, but is only something like 10 or 15% of the total investment in marine research in the EU. So most of the research programs and budgets are in the hands of member states, are in the hands of regions, and these partnerships try to bring national and regional funding together to align their programs. And the Commission encourages this with bringing additional funding and support from Horizon Europe. There are at least 5 candidate proposed European partnerships that are related to marine research. Of course, the most related is the Blue Economy Partnership, but also the Biodiversity Partnership might include the marine biodiversity issues. The Animal Health and Welfare Partnership might include fish and shellfish health and fish welfare issues. The Food Systems Partnership might include seafood issues, and the Circular Bio-Based Partnership can potentially include issues of marine biomass, particularly algae biomass issues. And this is the scheme of how the Blue Economy Partnership is developing. In the center of this partnership is a strategic research and innovation agendas, the issues that member states and associated countries are identifying as of common interest, of common priority. And this agenda is fed by regional strategic research and innovation agendas. One of them is the Mediterranean agenda that was developed under the Blue Med initiative, the effort to bring together and align marine research across the Mediterranean Sea, both in the European North and in the non-European South. And these are the 13 priority goals and the implementation plan that were developed under the Blue Med initiative with the support of Horizon Europe, with the Blue Med coordination and support action. And these 13 priority goals and this implementation plan are directly feeding the development of the partnership on blue economy, and together with other similar regional activities are really the most useful tools to meaningfully develop the candidate partnership on blue economy. And with this, I would like, before closing, to encourage you to follow our activities on the internet and also in social media, particularly now that the first work program with the details of the topics, with the specifications, the deadlines are going to be published very soon, hopefully, as I said, in June. Most probably there will be online information days also in June, where you can pose your related questions. So keep following developments, and thank you for your interest in this presentation. And I would welcome related questions. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Nikos, for this very interesting presentation and for being with us. We're supposed to have a break now, but if you agree all, I'm going to take a few minutes on this so that we are going to have the opportunity to have some questions with Nikos. And there is one more question for Phoebe from before that you may answer live. Please post your questions to the chat if you haven't done so. Nikos, I have a question for you. This is all very interesting, but it would be very nice if you could elaborate a little bit more on the potential marine-related aspects that will allow us to have a better understanding on the possibilities and the chances we have to apply and submit proposal. Can you give us a little more details on what are these aspects that we can think about? I've seen that you had also a slide in your presentation that you passed over.
Thank you, Nikos. Thank you for the invitation and for the question and for giving the possibility to speak, really, because I heard myself and I sounded very artificial compared to the professor before, particularly. So thank you for this. As I said, our work program is expected really to be announced in the coming weeks. And there you will read in detail all the topics, exactly what we're asking for. But now I can only give you a flavor of what were the priorities that were discussed during the co-creation approach that many DGs, many stakeholders, many member states found as particularly relevant. Most of them are related, of course, to the Green Deal. That is the major initiative of the van der Leyen Commission to make our continent carbon neutral by 2030. And the ocean climate nexus is very high on this. I don't have to explain why the ocean is important for climate regulation. So ocean-related climate issues are definitely high in the agenda. Under the Green Deal, there are separate strategies, and one of them is the algae strategy. And algae seem to be the next big thing. in marine science. So in order to support the algae strategy, we might need to support algae research, algae-related research and innovation. Another strategy under the Green Deal is the farm to fork strategy. And of course, seafood, fisheries and aquaculture are in the heart, in the core of this strategy. And so support for fisheries research, for issues as innovative fisheries, or issues as digitalization of fisheries inspection for the control regulation can be potentially expected. Aquaculture is still high in the agenda, and an issue that the last couple of years almost all stakeholders realized and highlighted, starting from NGOs about animal rights, member states, but also the industry very strongly, is about fish health and welfare, and welfare of and health of oysters, etc. So that might be another issue of high concern. Under the Green Deal again, of course, the new EU biodiversity strategy and marine biodiversity has a key role under this. So it would be reasonable to expect to continue research on marine biodiversity in this. And the macrobiome is a big discussion lately in all fields, in agriculture, in veterinary science, and of course also in marine science. So the marine microbiome has been one of the issues that we highlighted particularly intensively. So these are the hints I can potentially give. Stay tuned and follow us. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Nikos, for these details, and really looking forward to have the opportunity to meet in person again and have chat with you. If Professor Kuduri is still here with us, Phoebe, there is a question for you. I'm just gonna read it. Thank you for your presentation. It's coming from Vasilis Goumas. In light of recent reports that question the effectiveness of marine protected areas in Europe, what improvements would you suggest in monitoring and reporting of progress in achieving SDGs and EU targets?
Yes, this is a very good question, and the question derives from the fact that we don't really have monitoring processes that are connected with the SDGs. And why does it make sense to have them? First, because the SDGs are the most holistic and complete framework we have for the implementation of sustainable development. It is a holistic, it allows interdisciplinary integration, and it allows alignment with the new European policies. In a recent report that was published as UNSDSN Europe, we showcased that the European Green Deal and the SDGs are almost a perfect mirror image of each other. So having the SDGs framework that is much more mature, 6 years of maturity, more than the European Green Deal, will help the implementation of the European Green Deal and will help the implementation of the policies within the European Green Deal that relate to blue growth and of course relate to marine protected areas. So what we need is a platform which can monitor the implementation of the marine projects, protected area plans. The platform can assess the implementation and the plans as a whole, and these assessments should be based on KPIs that derive from the holistic framework of the SDGs, and at the same time connects with the 9 European Green Deal policies, and also with the recommendations of the European semester process per country, and also with any investment that will be implemented and will be relevant to marine protected areas, financed by either the recovery and resilience plans or the MFF. So we need better alignment with the SDG, serious monitoring that does not happen at the moment, and serious assessment, continuous assessment and revision of the plans. All these need to be science-driven, and it will greatly facilitate the assessment and monitoring process, the integration of digitalization. So this digital revolution can help the implementation of the green recovery, especially with regards to the assessment and monitoring, and techniques like AI and machine learning can be very instrumental with regards to these observatories that will assess and monitor. And this is what we try to do with the Blue Growth Initiative. So I'll stop here. And it is also very important, just one more sentence, not to just have the management plans with explicit focus on the sustainability of the ecosystem services and the resilience of the marine ecosystem, but it is crucial to showcase how the use of these ecosystem services in a sustainable way can bring positive growth multipliers and job multipliers, so that the coastal communities, the local communities can engage in these marine protection plans and can become shareholders in safeguarding the areas, but also using, in inverted commas, the areas for creating growth for them and their children.
Thank you very much, Phoebe, for this very comprehensive reply to the question. I would suggest that we have 5 minutes break now to stretch lengths and be back 2:15 for resuming this session. Thank you very much for your participation. I'm looking forward to see you again in 5 minutes. Good afternoon, everybody. Thank you for being with us again. And I will introduce our next speaker, Professor Joaquín Tintoré. He's Professor of Physical Oceanography at the Spanish National Research Council, and he's Director of the Spanish Large-Scale Marine Infrastructure in Spain. He's interested in understanding the ocean state and variability from events to climate and from coast to open ocean. He implements new multi-platforms and integrated ocean observing and forecasting systems. And he's going to present us a multi-platform and an integrated ocean observation and forecasting in response to science and society needs. Joaquín, the floor is yours. Thank you.
Good morning. I feel really honored to be here presenting to the audience of the Blue Growth in the Eastern Mediterranean Challenges and Opportunities Conference, the situation that we have reached at SOCIB after 10 years of near-shore to open ocean integrated ocean observing from events to climate. As we all know, our goal today is really climate change, global warming, is really ocean warming, as it is shown in this well-known slide from the IPCC. We are in an emergent situation, action is required, and as we see, the upper ocean is dramatically warming, but also the deep ocean is being today, as it is well known, affected. Our goal today is climate change, indeed, and after COVID, I think this is particularly relevant because we had vaccines and we have vaccines for COVID. We do not really have vaccines for climate change. So action is certainly required. We have an international frame for action. International frame provided by UN Sustainable Development Goals, by all the initiatives of the UN Decade, GOOS, the Global Ocean Observing Systems, the European initiatives related to the European Ocean Observing System. And in this international frame, I would like to quote this sentence from Richard Spinrad from NOAA, that the blue economy is a knowledge-based economy looking at the sea, not really for extraction of natural goods, but for data to address societal challenges and inspire solutions. And I think this is a really very interesting quote that has certainly inspired us. The SOCIB approach to ocean observation and forecasting, to ocean observing, is depicted in this now well-known, I think, slide where we have on the left all the different elements from ocean observing from SOCIB, multi-platform ocean observation from ships, moorings, buoys, surface drifters, Lagrangian profilers such as Argo profilers, gliders, satellite, and all those elements, all those observing systems are connected together and are providing data that are then processed and assimilated into the numerical models so that enhanced predictions are made. The global problem of climate change can be particularly well addressed in the Mediterranean, well-known Ideal Lab. I will not insist in this audience about this, but it is very relevant. And I think it is important to emphasize the relevance of the Mediterranean, the relevance of the meso and sub-mesoscale variability and its impacts in climate, in ocean health, in operational response, and the fact that the Mediterranean Sea, the community from the Mediterranean Sea, has been leading process studies, ocean observing, operational oceanography, and data since the late 1960s, where the initial deep water formation work from Jean-Claude Gascard and co-workers were leading. What is SOCIB now in 2021? After almost 10 years of activities, SOCIB is a multi-platform ocean observing and forecasting system from the near shore to the open ocean, integrated, and that covers from events to climate. We have 3 drivers, and we have systematic endurance lines and sustained observing, open data access, collaborative work between institutions, and we are evaluated every 4 years. SOCIB is a national collaborative research infrastructure, and you have here some other elements on the right side of this slide on the timeline and on some of our key performance indicators on scientific production. What is SOCIB then in 2021? A marine research infrastructure, a multi-platform, multidisciplinary and integrated ocean observing and forecasting systems that provides competitive access, contribute to state-of-the-art scientific priorities, respond to societal challenges, developing applications, and is also committed to responsible research and innovation. SOCIB is a story that started in 2009, is operational since 2014, and that today is providing science, data, and advice. In those slides, you have some numbers, which I will now show and detail here, but on the right side of this graphic, what you have is all the elements that have been built from SOCIB, what we have created, the observing facilities, the research vessel, the radar, the Lagrangian facilities, etc., with some numbers for each one of them. And then on the left side, what you have is what we have been doing, what we do with all this in terms of data, scientific activity, specific projects, products and services, etc. Some more numbers or KPIs in terms of each one of the facilities. You have them here in this slide. And a key element at SOCIB is responsible research and innovation. Being in the Balearic Islands, we need to explain in detail to society what we are doing. And for this, we have very strong and very significant outreach and communication capability, as you can see in this nice slide. The bottom line of all the activity of SOCIB is really to provide added value to our data. And in this slide, what we show to you is the data and ocean observation value chain from the ocean observation to the data, the processing, the value extraction, the contribution of these to better decisions and the impacts on society. So this is certainly the way the value accumulates along the chain and how SOCIB team is working. The brain, the key element of SOCIB is really the data center, where real-time, free access and download and quality control data, fair and trust data are available for scientists and for society after many years of EU collaboration in the frame of the different projects that are shown in this slide. We have some highlights of science, which I will not go through that, but they are shown here, like, for example, in the frame of Calypso, a very relevant US-led project in the area of the Alboran Sea, trying to understand really the three-dimensional coherent pathways between the upper ocean and the ocean interior. And we have a very recent and nice example led by Amala Mahadevan in BAMS. We also have other highlights, which I also wanted to emphasize in relation to the Mediterranean leadership and the collaboration capabilities of the Mediterranean team. As was shown in this recent paper, that we collaborated a big number of Mediterranean team, more than 100 authors, for Ocean Ops 19 meeting 2 years ago. A very important highlight also on SOCIB activities is the relation to society. We designed a new society-driven strategy in 2019, led by Emma Heslop. And today, SOCIB is providing data, resources, knowledge, and advice to 10 sectors of society, which are shown in this slide. So I think this is also a very relevant element of the fact that ocean observing new research infrastructures not only respond to scientific priorities, but are also more and more engaging and responding to society needs. Another highlight, very clear, is related to search and rescue operations and the collaboration and the fact of building trust with search and rescue operators such as SACEMAR in Spain in the frame of Copernicus and other initiatives together with other teams and colleagues. In recent times, we have also been developing new observing systems, such as animal-borne instruments, as we see here in the joint work between gliders following sea turtles in the south of Mallorca, and where we can also see that the dives of the sea turtles are related to the depth of the deep chlorophyll maximum. As mentioned before, a key element of SOCIB is science and stakeholders, and in this slide you can see some of our activities in terms of events and training, contests that we have organized, the design of different kind of resources that are available for the educational community, and our capacity and our need to communicate to society or all our research results. A final highlight which I would like to mention, in particular in relation to this meeting, is the recent development of a sub-regional Mediterranean Sea indicators from event detection to climate change, where we have developed an application that you can find on this link for detection of events from daily monitoring, monthly monitoring, annual monitoring, or, for example, to detect marine heat waves in the eastern or the western Mediterranean. You can see some very nice examples in the application, and what is very relevant here is that the application is updated daily. We have focused ourselves on the Western Mediterranean, but we are of course open to collaboration for doing so in the Eastern Mediterranean. So finally, this is reaching the final slides. The added value of ocean integration and forecasting is depicted here in those 10 key elements that we have providing and that we are providing to you. And this is the last slide. We believe that it's really the right time for the ocean and ocean integration, but we need to act now. There are changes in science, technologies, and science to society relation. The ocean observing systems, the marine research infrastructures are key elements leading these changes because of the critical mass, because of the mission-oriented capacities, and because of the society engagement capacities. All this provides a sound ecosystem for scientific excellence with impact on society, innovation, synchronizing all the elements. And as I'd like to say, from ego systems to ecosystems. And I think this is certainly a major step forward that we all have to do. Or in other words, I'd like to say that multi-platform and integrated ocean observing systems are key elements for major scientific breakthroughs, for real innovation initiatives for blue growth, healthy and sustainable oceans, and for a fruitful UN decade of ocean sciences for sustainable development. And I really thank you very much all for being here. This is a final summary. We couldn't do anything of all this without all our partners integrating science, technology, and society. I thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Joaquín, for this interesting presentation and for focusing on the data from the ocean. There is already a question for you. Considering that your initiative is a long-term monitoring effort, Manolis is asking if the platform is supported by national, public, or private funds.
Thanks very much, Manolis, and everybody for being here and for the question. The SOCIB is a joint initiative between the Spanish government and the Balearic government, and it's mostly sustained by national funds, national and regional funds, funds that come from research, But in principle, one of the key elements of SOCIB is that we were admitted in 2014 in the large-scale infrastructures map. So we do have sustained funding. We are evaluated every 4 years. So every 4 years, we have to show that we are still good and that we are still doing what we were committed to do. But then the funding is so far secured.
Thank you, Joaquín, for your answer. I have also one question for you. Given the interest from the society, from different partners to use data from the ocean, I'm wondering what is the scale of the analysis that your data have? I suppose that it is region dependent or site dependent. And how easy is the access to this data? This is the main question. How easily someone can come to you and access this data? Is there any specific procedure for this, and is there any cost for this?
No, right now, all the data from SOCIB are all free and open, and anybody can access to the data, not only for visualization, but also for download. And what I can tell you, for example, is that different sectors, which were outlined in the presentation, but sectors related, for example, surfers in the islands are using directly our information, sorry, on wave height, for example, and wave forecast, together with Puertos del Estado, and but many others. The Director General from Emergencies also use this in beaches in terms of the lifeguards. SACEMAR and search and rescue operators for safety at sea use this also on a regular basis. So right now, I think we are more and more having different sectors from society accessing to the data and using them for their daily needs or questions. Another area where we are very active is the educational area through schools, and schools and teachers are also more and more using SOCIB material. I invite you to have a look at MedClick, the Mediterranean at one click, which has actually a very significant area for downloading material for schools, for example. Yes.
Follow-up question from Yorgos. Do you have any specific demands to deliver data, or you just leave the data available and everybody can have access on them?
The second part is just this. We just make the data available, easily or not, that could be argued. And that really depends very much on the expertise, of course. But we are trying to do this better and to try to receive the requests from the users and to try to provide the data in a more friendly way. But we are not yet there. We have to improve in this, certainly. Thanks very much for the question, Georgios. Very good.
Thank you for the presentation and for this question and answer debate, Joaquín. It's really interesting, and probably we shall use the data that you are providing more oftenly. Before moving to our next presenter, I would like to ask all of you that are willing to open the camera, to turn on the cameras, so that we can have a group photo somehow. If we are not able to have it to be together alive, let's have it in this way. Thank you for responding to this. And our group of people are going to start taking photos in a while, so that we shall see that, yeah, we can see the faces. Thank you for being with us. And give a smile, please. Thank you really very much for this. It's a nice thing to remember. We're gonna upload the photo on the website, and everybody will have it available. And I'm going directly to our next presenter. Pedro Mayorga is president of EnerOcean in Spain. He is also an assistant professor at the University of Malaga on marine energies. He is active engineer for more than 25 years, and he's leader in developing a very special type of platform that he's going to speak to us about. And he's also a good friend. Pedro, the floor is yours.
Good afternoon. My name is Pedro Mayorga, and I'm the founder and CTO of EnerOcean. And I'm going to introduce today the technology we are developing, that is W2 power. That is a floating solution that can be applied for Mediterranean waters. So this is our platform. The platform was installed at sea in 2019. It was installed in the Gran Canary Islands in the Atlantic, but the conditions are very similar to those that we are going to face in the Mediterranean. This is, as you can see, is a semi-submersible platform, a triangular form with 2 wind turbines on limit towers. This was the first wind turbine platform that was installed in Spanish waters, and the first in the world with 2 wind turbines that was tested at open sea. The effort that leads to the conclusion of this testing was a joint effort by EnerOcean as leader of the project, but with the support of 3 other companies, Genova Ingeniería, Ingetem Services, and the British company TTI. We received support from the European Union, and we received also support from the national agencies, CEDETI and BASE, one for the Spanish companies, the other for the British company. The platform was a 1:6 scale prototype of our technology, and we were extremely happy with the results that we obtained with the testing, because we get excellent results of this prototype C testing. It's a 1:6 scale platform, and testing at this size allows us to do a very fast checking of our technology. We were able to demonstrate the manufacturing and installation methods. We were able to verify the simple and cost-effective sea operations. We demonstrate that the passive wing alignment worked as we expected, and we checked that the wing bending was very efficient even in moderate winds. We also used this testing for the validation of functional subsystems like the swivel system, the hybrid mooring, the advanced monitoring, and the communication system. And at the end of the day, the main objective of this testing was to demonstrate the stability and the reliability of the platform. We didn't need to do any intervention during the time that the platform was at sea. And we also demonstrated the survivability, because being a 1:6 scale and having into account that the sea doesn't scale, we would face 7 storms of more than 4 meter waves, and that 4 meter waves were equivalent to the MOL 24 for the full scale. So bigger than any storm that we can face during a full life of the platform at any place in the world. The maximum wave height that we record was 5.4 meters, so that was significantly higher than any expected storm that we can face in any installation that we can foresee. Thanks to the results of this testing, being a European effort, we received this prize, the Atlantic Project Award 2020, for the best marine renewable energy in the Atlantic area, and we received this prize in the name of the other partners of the project, and for the behavior of this project and the significance of the European strategy. But who are we? We are just a small company. We are based in Malaga, and we have also a place in the Canary Islands. We are specialized in marine energy engineering, and our business scope goes from the resource and facility studies to commercial exploitation of marine renewables. We are also considered that the key enabling technologies in marine energy, the monitoring, reliability, the maintenance, are basic for the development of these technologies. And although we are small, we have a very active position, and we work in the representative groups at national and international level. Just as an example, we have just requested our incorporation into the Hellenic Wind Energy Association. And how we start working with W2 Power? Well, the thing is that the W2 Power platform is a design that grows from a patent from a Norwegian company, and we became the lead developers of the W2 Power technology in 2012. The patent is from 2009. And thanks to our involvement, we have managed to make this technology a reality. And today we are the owners of all IP related to this solution. Why we consider this technology the one that can produce the lower energy cost? By the combination of several features, including a lightweight but large semi-submersible, so keeping the stability while reducing the total draft and the total amount of steel. By putting 2 wind turbines in leaning towers, so that way we reduce the loads, we use lower height for assembly and maintenance. We have multiple options, different vendors for the wind turbines that allow us to reduce the cost per megawatt in the wind turbines. And having the leaning towers allow us to place the 2 wind turbines very close, but not increasing the size of the platform, so reducing the total steel. The platform self-oriented with the wind direction, but because it yaws from the front column, not from the wind turbines, so it's always facing the wind direction, and the 2 wind turbines are in the same plane, not having a wake effect or bad interaction between the 2 turbines. Eliminating the yaw mechanisms is known to cause long downtimes that we are saving, and we are reducing this expected breakdown. The platform yaw has been already sea tested, so we are very confident that this solution is reducing the total cost of the energy produced. We have arrived to this point by the systematic step-by-step development, thanks to the support of the European Union and the national bodies in many research projects. And we started by the conceptual design, going for the engineering optimization, and then go into tank testing in 8 campaigns in 4 labs in Europe, finalizing the test campaign in Flowwave in Edinburgh. And when we finished this stage, we decided to go for the sea testing to make a real demonstration at sea, not in a controlled environment. As we said before, the sea doesn't scale, and it was not a program testing campaign. What are our next steps? We are now facing the development of the first commercial and pre-commercial arrays. Our idea is to make a first array of 4 full-scale units between 10 and 12 megawatts per unit for a total of 40 to 48 megawatts in the Canary Islands. This array will produce between 200 and 250 gigawatt hours per year, with lower costs for this size that any other competing approach. And after this, we are foreseeing a first commercial funds and getting fully commercial for 2026. This is the scheme that has been submitted to the Spanish authorities for the approval of the environmental impact, and this is the first step that we are taking. You can see we have 4 full-size units in a water depth between 50 and 100 meters. So very suitable for reproducing in many other sites around the Mediterranean. And we are planning to expand this in a competitive bid, because this is this is the experimental one, but the second one will not be experimental, will be need to be included into a competitive bid with the rest of technologies for an implementation up to 180 megawatts for the combined 2 farms. And where we can go after this? The Mediterranean shows that we have good wind resource in many areas in the different Mediterranean Sea. All the Mediterranean countries, especially the European ones, have at least some medium to good quality wind places, but we are facing additional difficulty compared to the North countries. Our bathymetry is not so suitable for the technology that has been demonstrated. We have no big areas with less than 50 meters that are the suitable ones for the fixed foundations, and those areas are not normally, when you have not so good bathymetry, it doesn't match with the wind speed. So that's why floating is the solution. Additionally to this, we have studied also the options to combine the platform with different uses, multi-use. And here we have collaborated, for example, with the ELENI Marine Research Center. We are studying a little more these potential synergies between the aquaculture and the wind energy production into a national project called ERA, Utilization of Renewable Energy and Aquaculture, and where we are collaborating with two of our partners and shareholders of EnerOcean. And that's all. As a summary, W2Power is a patented solution that uses wind turbines available today in a large but stable, very stable semi-submersible platform, and with a combination of innovations that allows to reduce both CapEx and OpEx. And we have demonstrated to our investors that we have a lower LCOE than any other non-containers. It's possible to combine for multi-use, and there is a very high potential for the European Union, especially in Mediterranean waters, but also global. Thank you very much for your attention.
Video. Thank you very much, Pedro, for the presentation. It's really interesting to see how the whole system has evolved in the years. I feel a little bit jealous seeing that all this happened in the west part of the Mediterranean. But nevertheless, you have one question here in the chat. Is the map that you have used from the Coconut project?
Well, thank you, Nikos, for the nice words and for all the organizers of this conference, and congratulations to all the speakers. Talking about the question about the map, the wind map, I took it from the Global Wind Atlas. There is a joint effort between DTU and I think that is from the World Bank. So it's something that is a very interesting tool because it allows to look at the full size in any place in the world. But we use it normally for these very big assessments, and also to show the big potential in any place in the world. But I know there are big efforts like in EMONNet and other similar European efforts that I think that are providing information for this tool.
Okay, thank you. I have some questions for you. First of all, what is the final dimension of the platform? Because you spoke about the pilot dimension that you put in Gran Canaria, but what is the final dimension at the end of the day?
We are using the current design because we know that it can evolve, but we are looking for the optimal design at the current size of turbines and the available commercial turbines that we have in the market. We have we measure the dimension by the distance between the columns in the back. That is the one that where the leaning towers start. There are 90 meters between them. So when we include the final dimensions, less than 120 meters for that dimension. But when we manufacture, the main dimension that will mean a difficulty to do the manufacturing is the one from the front column to the back. And there we have a limited size of 72 meters that allow us to manufacture in many dry docks around the world.
Okay, and one more question from my side. You spoke in your last slide about the possible multi-use of the platform with aquaculture. And probably you have seen in the morning my presentation that we are working also the same direction because we start from the same point and we are continue on separate ways, but nevertheless, maybe we shall meet again. How far you have been there? Is there any real commercial interest from the private sector to build a farm that combines wind turbines and aquaculture? Because this is the real interesting thing at the end of the story.
Yeah, we have been in contact, and some of the people we have been talking to, I think they are the same people, but we know that there is a potential interest, but we also recognize that it's very important to de-risk all the process, and we understand that the technology that has been tested for floating wind has not been validated at sea, so we need to go commercial with the wind, and we need to consider this additional extension to fish farming included in the technology, and that needs to be done in a different step. So our approach now is to consider more the physical interactions between the the platform and the general dynamics of the system, we normally face that the interactions are positive, that we have even an increase in the stability of the platform, but it will also mean additional elements, more potential failures, and a little bigger loads on the mooring. That's what it comes with the higher stability. So you are leaning more in your moorings. But the thing is, we think that the step is quite simple to do, especially for those farms that are close to land. It will be quite simple, but we understand that we need to have proper regulations that allow for the combined use. That is not simple. We need to teach the people from aquaculture how to interact with a floating farm, and we need to teach the owners of the floating farm that people that are moving around is not going to create damage. It's more an opportunity for maintenance than a risk for your installation. And then at the end of the day, the most difficult part, we need to convince the banks to invest in two different industries. It looks like but I think that the evolution is positive. The results are positive. The global prospect is very good. And once you eliminate the most windy area, if we really want to make a profitable going at sea, and this is a way to win more industrial areas in the sea in a sustainable way, the combination is one of the more logical solutions. And
so I suppose that at the end, our pilot plan, if goes on and proceed to implementation, is going to be helpful for you. Thank you very much, Pedro, for this presentation and for this small debate. Unfortunately, we don't have more time, and I have to go to our last presenter for today, another good friend and colleague, Marc Vandeputte. Marc is a researcher at the Institute for Agriculture, Food and Environment in France, and he's also coordinating 3 projects of aquaculture infrastructure, the AquaExcel projects, that are European infrastructure, and this is what he's going to speak about. Thank you, Marc, for being with us, and the floor is yours.
Hello, good afternoon. I'm Marc Vandeputte from INRAE, Aquaculture Research project. And I will talk about the use of aquaculture research infrastructure to support blue growth in the EU. And I really want to thank the organizers for giving me the opportunity to participate in this web conference. Well, aquaculture, as most of you know, is a global blue growth challenge because it now produces more than 50% of the seafood for human consumption worldwide. And it has been and will remain the only growing seafood source worldwide because fisheries cannot produce more than what they do today. This gives aquaculture a pressing need for sustainability, both from the economic, environmental, and social point of view. If we take an example here in the Mediterranean and look at the 2 emblematic species of Mediterranean diet, the sea bass and the sea bream, for them, farming started at the end of the 80s, and it has grown very quickly because in 2018, we produced some 2,100 tons of each of those species. And what's important to note also is that now there are really aquaculture species. More than 95% of the production is from aquaculture. As you see from the graphs below, where you see capture fisheries in orange, or you may see capture fisheries in orange, and aquaculture in blue. So aquaculture develops and will continue to develop. then why do we need aquaculture research infrastructure? First, what are research infrastructures? Research infrastructures, they are the facilities, but also the resources and the services that they provide that can be used by the scientific community to conduct their research. In a nutshell, we could say that research infrastructures are the hardware that you need for conducting good research. And in this frame, the European Union finances some so-called infrastructure projects with the aim to optimize the use and the development of the research infrastructures existing in Europe, focusing on the best ones, to ensure also the access of the greatest number of research teams from across the EU to these great infrastructures, and of course to improve the services provided to the researchers. And for aquaculture, these research infrastructures, they are grouped in what we could call the AquaExcel ecosystem. Because, why do I say ecosystem? Because we have 3 AquaExcel projects which have followed each other. The first one from 2011 to 2014, followed by AquaExcel 2020 from 2015 to 2020, and now AquaExcel 3, which will last until 2025. Our main goal in these projects has always been the same, is to integrate and open the key infrastructure research for aquaculture. And this infrastructure really cover all types of EU aquaculture systems and competencies. And in these actions, we have 3 types of activities. Transnational access, which is a way to give free of charge access to the infrastructures to external users. We also have networking activities, which is more about coordination of the infrastructures, especially manage the transnational access, but also some mobility between infrastructures, and also to give visibility via communication, dissemination, and knowledge management. And then we have joint research activities, which are joint R&D activities between the partners of the network, and which aim to improve the services that are provided by the infrastructure. It's not classical research, it's just to give a better service to the users once we achieve our goals. Now we are in the AquaExcel 3 project, which is a follow-up of the AquaExcel and the AquaExcel 2020 project. We have started with 17 partners, and we now have 22 partners, offering a total of 40 different infrastructures. And we have approximately 10 million euro budget, and will last until 2025. And if you can see the evolution of the EC grant per activity, you can see that transnational access here in blue has always grown from project to project, which means that as the ecosystem progresses, more and more of the money is directed not to within the project, but to the external users. If we see how the projects have evolved, first in terms of species, when we started with AquaExcel, we had the major EU farm fish species. Then in AquaExcel 2020, we had added some so-called new species like tuna, sturgeon, sole, etc., or cleaner fish in the north. And in AquaExcel 3, we have added the shellfish, macroalgae, and recyclers, because now the EU wants to move towards lower trophic level aquaculture. We have specialized aquaculture experimental facilities, disease challenge facilities for fish and shellfish. And we have developed a number of different services during the first 2 projects, which are now being implemented in the AquaExcel 3 project. And we also increase the share of number of projects and number of users touched by the transnational actors. So transnational access offers, as I said, access to most EU fish species from the north and the south, the new species, and in Aquaculture 3, the recycler. We have all types of systems, we have specialized units, and we will have a permanently open call starting in May this year for people to apply and submit projects. And it's open to also non-EU research teams. If I highlight for Blue Growth, we have really two actions. The first one is really this transnational access, because if we count from AquaXL to AquaXL 3, that will be in total more than 400 projects over 15 years. These projects really facilitate aquaculture research in the EU. They are evaluated based on scientific excellence and relevance to strategic goals of the European aquaculture technology and innovation platforms. Private companies are welcome. It's easy financing for small projects with more than 60% success. And it allows the use of the best infrastructures with the best teams. And I remind you, 50% of the project money is for the external use of the community. The key action number 2 is what we call the Industry Research Advisory Panel that meets twice a year and which advises us on current topics of major interest for the industry, which also evaluates the project outputs to identify those with industry relevance. And these are then further disseminated as project catalogs in an easily understandable way. And they help us also to select the best occasions to set up brokerage events where we push these selected outputs to the industry. That was all. I hope I have convinced you of the usefulness of AquaXL 3. And I hope that some of you will apply to transnational access, because it's really a unique opportunity to start collaboration with the best teams for aquaculture research in the EU. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mark, for presenting us the AquaXL projects. And I invite again people that they want to ask questions to post it in the chat. I do have some questions for you, however. Have you thought of developing a kind of free of charge aspect of transnational access to the AquaXL project?
What do you mean free of charge?
I mean,
the access is free of charge for the user.
Yeah, but who can participate? Who can play in this game?
Any researcher, either private or public, because the key point is really to submit a research idea, research project that can be done in one of the infrastructures. So it can be private research, it can be public research. It just has to be scientifically excellent and, of course, relevant also to the aquaculture industry.
Are there any specific targets for this?
No, we decided not to put really specific targets because we have some targets which are proposed by the Industry Research Advisory Panel. So there are some subjects which are prioritized, but any good idea can apply. I mean, we do not restrict what people can propose. We just try to push people to the most important things for the industry. But if they have other good research ideas, that's perfectly fine.
Thank you very much, Mark. I see that we have no more questions on the chat, but obviously, if there are any, we can forward it to you, and then you can reply to to the people that ask. So here we conclude our session. I would like to thank once more our speakers, and of course, all of you for attending this session. Thank you all presenters for the nice presentation, and I hope that everybody has enjoyed this. Please contact us if you have more questions or if you want to discuss further for collaboration in different areas of the Blue Growth. You're gonna receive information through our website and through other channels regarding the conference. It's really pity that we have this conference like this, and we do hope to see you soon on Crete soon. Have a nice afternoon, and waiting for you all in the morning session that it's gonna be very interesting. Thank you very much for joining us, and have a nice afternoon.